Well, hello, everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to Center Court, our festival for specialized master's programs. These are really fast-growing opportunities for a lot of people who want to specialize in a specific area in business. There are a lot of different options. We're going to talk about a bunch of them today. We have 4 terrific schools and 4 great representatives from those schools. Let me introduce them first. So we have Julia Orridge from Duke University's Fuqua School of Business, and she's going to talk about their Master's in Management program and their Master's in Accounting. And we have Kim Mba from Miami's Herbert Business School. That's the University of Miami in Florida, where it's nice and warm. And Kim is Director of Graduate Admissions and Recruiting, and she's going to talk about a brand new specialty master's that they have in sustainable business, an incredibly hot area. Herbert just basically launched their first cohort last year, so he has some cool data there on the program. But Miami actually has 8 different, at least that's what I counted on your website, Kim, 8 different on-campus specialty master's programs and 2 online. And so we'll talk a little bit about some of them as well during our discussion. We have Stephanie Brown, who is joining us from Notre Dame's Mendoza College of Business. And she's Assistant Director of MSBA Recruiting and Admissions. We'll talk about what MSBA really is. Of course, they have a MIM degree and a degree in Business Analytics, which is exactly what the MSBA is. And then, last but not least, we have John White from Wake Forest, who is Executive Director of their specialty master's programs in management, accounting, and business analytics. Welcome, everybody. So let me just say, I'm so happy that you're here. And I think we're gonna have a great session. This is actually the last session of our 2-day event. So I'm much smarter about these programs than I've ever been in my life. And I wanna start with really, a basic question, because some people may be coming to this new and not having attended the other sessions, or will find this on YouTube later on, and this could very well be their first introduction to what a specialty master's degree is. So Kim, let me ask you to start it off. Why do you think that non-MBA master's degrees in business have become so popular?
Great question. And honestly, as you look at the market in terms of employer demands, what they're looking for in candidates, across many areas of business, they're looking for more technical skills. And so for those students, coming out of undergrad or who have maybe started into their career, have a year or 2 of experience, and they know where they want to grow in terms of business, it's great to have an opportunity where you can complete a short-term program. Most specialty masters are completed within a year, if not less, and where you can dive into those specialized skills, that more technical knowledge that aligns with your particular function of business.
True. And Julia, are your programs pre-experienced, meaning that you don't have to have work experience before you go into them?
That's correct. A lot of our students do find that they're coming straight from their undergraduate degrees. Some may have an internship or 2 under their belt, maybe a year of full-time work experience, but they really are geared towards our pre-experienced students.
And I should point out to our audience that mostly specialty master's degrees are that way, which brings me to the other point, which is why I think they've grown so rapidly. Years ago, companies had big training departments, and they could afford to bring in liberal arts grads and literally train them for 6 months to a full year in a program. Today, employers do not have that luxury, and more often than not, they expect their hires to contribute from day 1. And what specialty master's degrees do, in fact, is allow people to show up at work, know the lingo, know what they need to do, and they get it done. And that is the big advantage in why the placement rates, the salaries are as high as they are in these programs. There are other reasons for that as well that we're going to get into. that I think you're going to find fascinating. Also, you know, if you're a poet like me and you graduated as a double major in political science and English, you have no hope today. You need to go and get a specialty master's to make yourself useful. That's a little bit of an exaggeration because I do believe in the road less traveled, but still, there's some truth to that. So let's get down to, you know, basics about how long you've had these different programs, what they kind of cover, and who is best suited for them. John at Wake Forest, why don't we talk to you about your programs? So you have 3 that you run: management, accounting, and business analytics. I believe that your intakes on those programs are roughly the same size. So get us into that first.
Sure, sure. Of course, shameless plug. I was also a poli-sci English major. So,
All right. Yes.
and there were not, one of the reasons why I think these master's experiences, whether it's at Wake or other schools, really resonate with me is because these kind of options were not available when I came out of undergrad. There was very distinct pathways and they were very defined. So I just love that regardless of what you pursue to study as an undergrad, you've got all these specialty options at your fingertips. Yeah, so at Wake, you're correct. We have a master's in management, and then we have a master's in business analytics and a master's in accounting. Our master's in management, we actually started in 2006. So among the earlier programs, fast forward to now, we currently have about 126 students seated. Ours is for non-business majors. So business minors are welcome to apply, but if you're non-business or STEM liberal arts major, the MSM can be the right fit for you. Hyper diverse in terms of class mix, male-female mix, underrepresented groups, and international students as well. I would say the big differentiator for us with the management program is that we have something called the Mba Advantage, that students who graduate from the MSM can return within 5 years as a second-year MBA student, either in our Charlotte, North Carolina, or Winston-Salem campus, our main campus, or now via our online MBA delivery.
Wow.
Just the business analytics program, which is STEM certified, and then our accountancy program, which is the CPA pathway program.
Right. And what do you learn in the Masters of Management program that might be different from, you know, what one would expect in an MBA?
Yeah, so I think that's an awesome question. I think probably any of my peers could also answer it. But a lot of the content, you know, when you look at an MSM type degree or MIM degree, you'll see that there is a lot of symmetry between the first year of an MBA program with general management, a good mix of technical skills, a lot of financial coursework, marketing, a lot of Excel, as you might imagine, maybe even nowadays some programming and coding. You know, even though we have our own articulated business analytics program, analytics has found its way into our accountancy program and our management programs as well.
Great. And they're all 1 year in length, essentially?
That is correct. So the MSM and the MSBA are 2-semester programs. So July starts and May finishes. And then our accounting program has 2 pathways, a 2-semester or a 3-semester option.
Why would one take the 3-semester option?
Excellent question. For non-accounting majors who want to secure a Big 4 firm internship and get on that pathway to getting hired by one of the Big 4, you know, Deloitte, EY, PwC, or KPMG, or by another national regional firm, there's an internship component, but it's really up to the student, whichever pathway they want to take.
Great. Okay, good. And Stephanie, on your 2 programs, your Master's in Management and your Analytics program, how long have they been around and what do they look like?
Yeah, so our MS in Business Analytics program is fairly new. We actually have our 2nd cohort on campus right now, so 1 graduating class under our belt. And then our MSM just got confirmation. We are in our 8th cohort of that one. So, so we've had 7 graduating classes so far with that.
And I'm wondering, your first cohort in the analytics program, how many did you bring in and how many did you bring in the second time?
Sure. So we had 35 seats in our first cohort for MSBA, filled that class. And then our second cohort, we filled 60 seats. We had 80 seats filled. We had more than that claimed, but with the pandemic, we do have some of those students deferred to next year. So we will see them soon, in about a year.
Sure. Now that tells me a lot about the demand for that degree to go with those numbers in 1 year. and during the pandemic,
Yeah.
you know, which was partially affected. It did affect the admission cycle in different ways. But what do you learn in a master's in analytics?
Sure. Well, our program is designed for candidates who have little to no background knowledge in analytics. So students who are recognizing the need for more analytic skills, more programming skills in whatever industry they are identifying with. And so we start out with various programming languages, R, SQL, Python. They'll dive into machine learning, cloud computing. They do a lot with data visualization and storytelling as well. I think that's a big component of an MSBA program, is that students are not just learning how to collect and analyze the data, but they're learning how to talk about the data in a way that anyone who is not skilled in that area can really truly understand and make sense of it, so that they can move forward with some great decisions.
I like that. I never would have imagined that the word storytelling
Yeah.
would be so with a data analytics degree.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, Kim, you have something new and really exciting to talk about, because last year you enrolled your first class in a master's in sustainable business. Tell me why the school started that area and what you actually get out of the program.
Absolutely. It's a great question. And, you know, with sustainable business, there's this blend, there's this balance of different disciplines. So that's one thing that's very unique about this program, is that it does bring together courses from different areas of course, business, but also engineering and environmental sciences as well. Why we started this program, I mean, we see where business is going. We see the need to take a more sustainable approach. So it's, again, it's looking at that balance when you are, whether it's producing goods, you're, you know, selling products, you know, to consumers, or providing services. You want to find ways where it's going to have less of an impact in terms of the environment, but at the same time is still helping in terms of the bottom line of your organization. So it's that balance on both sides. And so there's definitely a need. This, as I mentioned, is a very interdisciplinary program. And so it does provide students with that broad exposure to business, being able to work through accounting, marketing, operations, but again, looking through that lens of sustainable business. So it's really interesting in the way it's designed. It opens up a lot of, you know, windows in terms of looking at career paths from that program as well.
How many did you enroll in the first intake?
Yeah, our first year we had a class of 20 students, and this year, despite the pandemic, we did have an increase. Our class this year was about 25 students. So we are very focused, especially with some of our programs, on that smaller class environments, especially when you have these kind of niche topics as well.
And that is a 10-month program. Are all of your masters 10-month programs, or are some a little bit longer?
Most all are 10 months. Our business analytics, accounting, taxation, we have finance, international business, leadership. Our health administration program is 1.5 years. That builds in a little bit more time so that you have an internship component within.
And of all those programs, which one has the largest intake?
Finance and business analytics have been the two sort of year over year battling for that top. So
yeah, that makes total sense to me. I mean, for those who may not know about the market, basically the #1 master's that's a specialty master's is in finance generally. And business analytics has been the hottest, fastest growing one, and I'd say in the last 3 to 5 years. So that makes total sense for me. Now, how many people do you enroll in your master's in finance, and how many in your analytics program?
It typically ranges between 100 to 200 students.
Wow, that's good. That's a good number.
Yeah.
So you have nice critical mass there.
Absolutely. Great networking opportunity. And what I think has really lent to that growth in terms of the finance for our program specifically is that we have incorporated some different course clusters, meaning that there's specialized paths within the specialized masters. So depending on your flavor of finance, if you're going the direction of investments or corporate or fintech, behavioral finance, or even real estate investment, there's different paths that students can choose from.
Great. And Julia, what's your programs look like in terms of MIM and accounting? What are your intakes? How long have you had these programs? What's your approach to teaching those subjects?
Sure. So we offer 3 one-year master's programs at Fuqua, and we call them 1 year, but they're really 10 months in length. 2 of them are Master of Management Studies programs. The difference between the 2, we have a Master of Management Studies Foundation of Business program, which is located in Durham, North Carolina for the duration of the program. And our other Master of Management Studies program is our DKU, Duke Kunshan program, university program, where our students will spend half of their time in Durham, North Carolina, and the second half of their time over in China at our DKU, Duke Kunshan University program, so giving exposure to both the US and China economies. And additionally, our third 1-year master's is our business analytics, our Master of Quantitative Management Business Analytics program. And for our MQ program, we love our acronyms here at Fuqua. Our Mq Mba program, we offer 4 functional tracks for our students. So they will be admitted into their track. When they apply, they'll select either finance, strategy, marketing, or forensics as their track, which will kind of set their curriculum. And amongst the programs, our typical class size for the MQ Mba program is around 240. For our Master of Management Studies Foundation of Business, which is located in Durham, North Carolina for the duration of the program, is about 140. And for our DKU, the Duke Kunshan University program, we're around 65. This year, because of COVID, we actually saw a spike in our Master of Management Studies program. So we are at around 180 for our program located in Durham, North Carolina for the duration of the program. Stayed steady with DKU, we're about 62. Our business analytics program, we did see an increased number of deferrals. So just like Stephanie, we're going to see a good group coming back next year, but we're around 160 for our MQM program.
Right. Is your 180 in your master's in management studies a record?
Yes, it is. It is. We typically are around 140, but we saw increased interest in that program, especially with athletes. We have a lot of student athletes in our Master of Management Studies program, so that's exciting and fun for us.
Yeah. You could field a team.
Yes, we have several sports. We have about 60 of our students in our Master of Management Studies program are athletes, so a very, very big chunk.
So let's dig a little bit about into the diversity of these classes in terms of international applicants or rather students, gender splits, age. I'm assuming that basically the average age is going to be pretty much 23 across the board, but you may have some flexibility in terms of range, so you may be willing to accept people with a bit more experience. But give us a sense of what that looks like. Let's start with the program where you have your China campus, because I should point out that Duke University was one of the major U.S. universities that made a very big investment in building its own campus in China. Very few other schools in the United States, or indeed in the world, have done this. And so this is a program that takes advantage of that major investment you made.
Yes, absolutely. And for the breakdown of the class, because the students that graduate from this program end up working much more globally than our other programs on campus, a lot of students are applying from China, India, a lot of China. So we do have a good class of domestic students coming from the US this year, which is exciting. And for our other programs, all across the programs, we have a very good split of gender equality. And our Master of Management Studies Foundation of Business program, especially, we've seen our strongest class of underrepresented minorities being 1/4, which is very exciting for us. I'm glad about that. And that program is about a third international and about 70% domestic. Our MQ Mba program, also very heavy, China, India. They're about flipped from our Master of Management Studies program. It's more about 2/3 international and 1/3 domestic US.
Right. And what's the percentage of international students in the MIM program in Durham?
So about a third of the program.
About a third, okay. And then is it really a 50-50 gender split in that program?
Yep, we like to make it pretty gender equality, and yeah, for across the programs, we have great gender representation on both sides. So, and it looks like that's pretty much across the board with all the nods that I'm seeing from my fellow panelists here.
Kim, what's the demographic look like in your programs?
Sure, absolutely. So we have, I mean, for the University of Miami, of course, we're located in a very diverse city, but then we do have students that come from all around the globe. More so for some programs than others. I will say when you look at the international mix, and you look at programs such as finance, such as international business and analytics as well, those are some that push about 50% international students. Some of those other programs, you know, sustainable business, as we have talked about, leadership, those are more in the range of about 20 to 30% international students coming into those programs. One thing that to me is really exciting to see, in particular for sustainable business, is that international mix and the fact that this program, this type of area of study, has drawn students from areas all around Latin America, Europe, Asia, Canada. So that's something that's really exciting to see, that across many markets, this is becoming more of a focus. So, but yes, in terms of gender diversity, of course, we're always striving, you know, for that 50-50. And in fact, sustainable business, we do have a mix, a breakdown of about 50-50 for male and female students. Across most of our other programs for specialized masters, it's more of a 60-40 mix. This year we did have a couple programs that hit that 50-50 mark as well. So always excited to see that diversity within the classroom.
And again, we didn't mention this when we first talked about sustainable business, but I think it's worth mentioning that obviously this is a big and important issue, particularly for millennials and Gen Z. I do not meet any Gen Z people or millennials who do not talk about climate change, sustainable business, and its importance in our future. So I think this is a degree that's going to get much more popular. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing growth rates equivalent to the data analytics degree that we've seen in the past 5 years in sustainable business, given the intense interest of young people in this topic. So Stephanie, what do your demographics look like?
Yeah, sure. With our MSBA program, last year we had about 75% international students. This year we definitely shifted those numbers, and we're now at about 60-40 with domestics on that higher end there. So obviously, again, due to the pandemic and travel restrictions and immigration issues, but we were on track though to be at about 60-40 with the international students as the higher group previous to the pandemic. Also with that program, we're at about 70% male. Last year, we were just about 50-50 with that group, but as we've seen a shift towards more domestic candidates, we have seen the shift to more male applicants as well. So that's been an interesting change that we've noticed this year. And our international students in our MSBA program have really come from all over the world. I would say majority are coming from China and India, as others have mentioned. But this year I was really pleased to see a large number coming from Latin America and Europe as well. So we have, I believe, 17 countries represented in that group this year.
Wow.
Yeah, and our MSM program is just about neck and neck, male, female, just like everyone else has mentioned. So I'm glad to see that continuity there. And with that program, we only have just about 10% international students in that one. We do tend to see more of our international candidates focusing on more of the technical programs or STEM designated programs as well.
Yeah, it's interesting how international students tend to be more quantity than domestic students. I don't know what it actually accounts for that. I know that obviously, you know, in certain parts of the world, engineering degrees are a big deal. And so are, in fact, standardized tests, which require a good math mind, which automatically brings people to more technical programs. John, have you achieved gender parity in your MIM program?
Yeah, actually, we have indeed. All three of our programs actually generally strike a solid 50-50 male-female balance. Some years they've been a little bit higher. One year our MSM was actually 65% female, but there wasn't anything in particular we did that year. It was just a spike. Definitely with international enrollments, we do see international female students seem to prefer or gravitate to our accounting and our business analytics degrees as well, as opposed to, let's say, engineering, which we don't have at the master's level. In terms of cohort mixes, I'm looking down on my notes. Our MSA, our accounting split is about 75% domestic, 25% international. MSBA, you know, it kind of seesaws back and forth. This year it's heavier domestic. It's 58% domestic this year, 42% international. I think the pandemic, certainly in the lack of visa issuance, I'm seeing a lot of head nods here, affected that. But we really do try and keep these cohorts as balanced as possible so that both our domestic students and our international students can benefit from just cross-cultural and global engagement. And then our MSM program is about 80-20 domestic, international. And then from an underrepresented group perspective, our MSM is 33% URG, which we categorize at Wake, like I think all our schools do, is African American, Hispanic, Latinx, Native American. And then our analytics and accounting programs are around 15 to 20% underrepresented groups. Underrepresented D&I recruiting is a tentpole strategy for us in all areas. So we do a lot of work with national affinity organizations to ensure that we are enrolling appropriate percentages of students that reflect, you know, what the country looks like, if you will.
Now, John, are you on the Winston-Salem campus today?
I am not on campus today, but I am in Winston-Salem. Yes, we have taken a lot of pretty strict pandemic protocol measures at Wake, as you can imagine. I know we're all tracking that activity as it relates to pandemic and coronavirus outbreaks. So currently we're on a rotational strategy, so that and why we're rotating in and out, either working from or in the office, is that our goal with our business school was to accommodate as many students in the space as possible, given our fall modality delivery, which is a blend of on-campus and online. But for every non-student that's in the building, that means one student can't go in. So we worked with the goal of how many students we could accommodate in a given day, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. But when I am back in the office, I enjoy those days. It certainly makes you grateful for that future return to normalcy. And I'll be a realistic optimist about that. I look forward to the day we're all back on our campuses, and I know our students do. And I've been particularly proud of the measures Wake has taken. You know, for an 8,000 grad and undergrad institution, we're currently sitting at about 13 diagnosed cases right now. So we feel that we're going to make it to the Thanksgiving break. So we're happy about that.
That's great. Now I'm looking out your window, and there's a beautiful, serene scene. It's incredibly Zen-like. Is that real, or is that a background?
I guess you'll have to find out. No.
These Zoom backgrounds in the beginning, they were so pixelated, you could tell immediately. And now they're much more refined and you can't tell.
I will be happy to share this one with anybody. So I agree with you, John. There was a lot of dubious backgrounds that just looked kind of goofy. And I just Googled cool Zoom design backgrounds. And it's been a big hit. I'll send it to anybody who wants it after this.
Okay, see, you can learn a lot more than you might imagine by watching our specialized masters panel here. Yeah. And I ask you this question because of this next question I want to ask you. When I go to a campus, one of my favorite things to do is to sit down with students and to talk about the programs and the culture and their classmates and their faculty, all the atmospherics that really make for a good educational experience. So I'm imagining myself on your campus in those woods, sitting on the ground, having a little picnic with 3 of your students. And I would ask them this question: what are the 3 hallmarks of your program? What are the 3 things that stand out that really were, if not magical, certainly memorable and important to you in your experience? What are the 3 things people would say? And they may say different things about, your 3 different programs, or they may be rather universal. What do you think they would tell me?
Oh gosh, great question. And I can answer this with qualitative and actually quantitative data because we survey our students all the time, and especially now in a pandemic. I would say, the three things that I would hope students would respond with was just the level of support they receive with the student-centric model we have. One thing I really enjoy about programs of our size and scale is that our engagement with students is not just limited to admissions. We are very much part of their experience from A to Z, both as a candidate, as a student, and as an alum. The next thing I would say is just the career support mechanism and the amount of career support. Because of our cohort sizes, we're able to offer that to students of all countries and all backgrounds. And our goal is that every student emerges with that master's in the time period that the degree takes, 10 months, a year. We talked about 2 semesters, as well as a successful employment outcome. And I just think the faculty engagement and intimate class sizes, I'm seeing some head nods as well. The last thing I think is the connections, the ability to make connections in smaller learning environments with your faculty and with your fellow peers who ultimately become part of your professional network in the future. And I do know that that's, I think, been tough for a lot of folks, is the craving of those natural connections that normally happen in a non-pandemic learning environment, and trying to find a way to live up to that given the scenarios that we're currently in.
Great. Now, Julia, what are your 3 things? What were the 3 things that your students would tell me? Would Durham be part of it?
Durham definitely is part of it. It's a beautiful place to be, definitely very foresty as well. But I would have to say the 3 things. The first one would be our Team Fuqua. Team Fuqua is everything for our students. All of our programs are team-based, so our students are actually coming in and they're going to be set on a team with 3 to 4 other students who don't look exactly like them. So a student with no work experience may be matched with someone who has a little bit more work experience, or someone who has a liberal arts degree may be matched with someone that has a more quantitative degree. And we do that purposefully to give them a real-world experience. So they're going to be taking the same classes together. They're going to be working on projects together. All assignments are together. So Team Fuqua is real. And it's also not just at the student level, it's also at the staff and faculty level. We all are looking out for each other. When I first joined Fuqua, I was like, okay, what is this Team Fuqua? Is this just something they throw on a mug and, looks nice and fancy? But it's actually real. And, I've been with Duke for 5 years, but I've been with Fuqua for 1, and I definitely feel that Team Fuqua atmosphere. Second would have to be our Career Management Center. We have amazing career coaches, and we have 5 dedicated to our 1-year master's programs or specialized masters, and they are just phenomenal. They know everybody, and it's kind of crazy to me that they do, but the support that they give our students is just phenomenal. And they give that support to our students even when they leave. So after they graduate, they still have the ability to connect with our Career Management Center. So they'll have the same resources 5, 10, 15 years post-graduation. The last I would have to say is the experiential learning opportunities that we offer our students. They're different across the programs, but to highlight one, my favorite one for our Master of Management Studies programs is our Fuqua Client Consulting Practicum. So it gives students the ability to test out consulting before committing to it as a full-time career post-graduation. So if they're interested in it, they can enroll in this program, which pairs them with a second-year daytime MBA student, a faculty mentor, and a local company in the area to work on a consulting project. And I think it's just one of the amazing opportunities we have for our students to, again, just kind of test the waters to really figure out what's right for them post-graduation.
How long are those assignments, and what kinds of companies have people work with?
Sure. So it's mostly for our Master of Management Studies Foundation of Business program that's located in Durham, because the program does spill over from our fall term into our spring terms, about 6 weeks. So one of my favorite projects was actually with a local brewery. Our students helped with brand strategy marketing for a full steam brewery. If you've ever come to Durham, check it out. But it's just one of the fun ones that our students have done before. So definitely pretty cool.
I hope they got some free beer out of that.
I hope they do too.
So Kim, what are the 3 magical things that your graduates would tell me about?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. Of course, I know I'm shaking my head as I hear you all talk about some of the different
And I should
aspects.
point out that Kim has an MBA from her university.
I do. Graduated 2018. So I have a bit of that exposure on the students as well. But I think, just as you mentioned, it's such an important thing to be able to connect with the students and really hear from their individual, thoughts, because for everybody, it's a little bit different what they take away from this experience. For the University of Miami, for our master's programs, I have to say that probably 3 areas, which each area encompasses different factors: community, opportunity, and also the faculty. So in terms of the community, it is that collaboration, it is that network, it's that experience that you have being part of the business school, both in terms of your classmates, but also in terms of the support staff that you have. It's such a community environment within Miami Herbert Business School. There's a lot of support that's provided. When I talk about opportunity, that is 2 different levels, because career services, the opportunity that's presented, the dedication, the individualized support that the ZIF Graduate Career Services team provides is just remarkable, especially with our specialized master's programs. As I've mentioned, particular programs have a very large mix of international students. And so the fact that they really dedicate a lot of time, a lot of resources into identifying and engaging with those employers that are very interested in hiring on international candidates. And then when we talk about opportunity, it is also the experiential learning, because that goes into it as well. It's, having that chance to step outside of your comfort zone, to challenge yourself along the way. And that's definitely one, again, as you talk to students, for each one, it might be something different. It might be participating in the Miami Leadership Challenge and exercise and crisis management. For somebody else, it may be having participated in DERPA, our partnership with Deloitte, the Institute for Research and Practice and Analytics. So getting that exposure as well to industry and to, hands-on learning through many of those different corporate partnerships and experiential learning opportunities. And then, as I mentioned, the third would really be the faculty. That's always one that, as I talk with students, I think they're most surprised. They come in and they've researched, they've thought about what different things they want to get involved with, what they want to take advantage of. But the faculty is always one that kind of catches them off guard, because they never imagine, how supportive the faculty would be, and just how remarkable their experience and their knowledge, the research that they bring into the classroom with them. So those would certainly be the areas that I think they would share with you.
That's great. Now, Stephanie, you have the disadvantage of going after everyone else. But I'm gonna take a guess and say one of the things that would be different that you might mention of the 3 is the school's emphasis on ethics and integrity in all its programming. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're right. You're definitely right. Yes, I think one of the main hallmarks of a Mendoza education that our students would say is that focus on ethics. As a Catholic institution, ethics is central to everything that we do, both in the classroom and outside the classroom. And I think that's one of the things that really sets our MSBA apart as well, is that the ethical teaching is really built into every class. It starts with a class on analytics ethics, but really branches out and then just permeates the rest of those courses that the students will take. And kind of our motto these days is, grow the good in business, and without ethics you can't have the good. So that certainly is one of those key experiences that they would talk about. I would say one of the other hallmarks of Mendoza is the focus on leadership, and I think that really goes hand in hand with the ethics and the values piece as well, because our students are trained in developing their leadership style based on their own personal ethics and values as well. So leading from the heart, and not trying to become the leaders that they have experienced, but becoming the leaders that they are meant to be. And it's through coursework, through class projects, and through organizations that they are able to learn those leadership values and skills. And then I would say the other thing I was trying to pick and choose between different things for number 3, but I'm just going to pick community because I think that encompasses so much. The Notre Dame community is a phenomenal community to be a part of. And in fact, we call it the Notre Dame family instead of community because you do become family when you're here, whether you're a student, faculty, or staff. And our students truly feel that from the admissions process all the way through to graduation when we are hugging and sobbing with them as they walk across the stage. And you know, that I think that plays out in the just from the small cohorts that they are able to enjoy with their classes to we have kind of a similar thing that Julia mentioned. We have learning teams that our students are assigned to where they really find you know, complementary skills among their teammates as they learn and grow from each other as much as they do faculty. Through the clubs and organizations that they participate in, and the strong emphasis on participating in the surrounding community as well, and giving back to the South Bend community as much as they are giving back to the Notre Dame community. So I will say community. It's my last one.
Now, it could be community, but I know that you're fighters too. It's the Fighting Irish.
We are.
Okay.
We are the Fighting Irish. Yeah, go Irish.
So outside of the Masters in Management program, which we would assume would include soft skills, is there any attention paid to soft skills in John, your programs in, let's say, accounting or business analytics?
Yeah, for sure. And you know, it's interesting because that term soft skills, I hope we get to a space where that is almost renamed like critical interpersonal skills or engagement skills. Because you know, it's one thing we always talk about to have these technical skills, but you've also got to be somebody that people want to eat lunch with. You know, and that's where the soft skills come into play, is the ability to work well with others, to be a good teammate, to be a trusted partner. Some of the ethics piece that Stephanie talked about, the ethics pieces I know that my friends at Duke and Miami also possess. But yeah, those skills are critical, specific to our MSBA. You know, and I would say also, you know, you referenced, John, the true explosion in MSBA type degree programs. We've got quite a few here represented not just in this segment. Every program, while maybe having similar naming configuration, has probably some fairly different curriculum styles. And I think, and so it's incumbent upon a candidate, if they start to look at MSBA, to say, you know, what is this curriculum, and is it going to help me get where I want to go? And with us, when we launched our MSBA in 2016, we're now just seated our 5th cohort. We felt like the gap area was the intersection of data science with business. And we felt like that was the piece that was missing a little bit, was the business communication and the business knowledge piece. And one of my colleagues talked about being able to understand data, but then being able to explain it to others is a totally different ball of wax, right? So with us, that is part and parcel of the MSBA delivery experience. And with that goes coursework in storytelling, visual storytelling as we call it. It used to be called analytics in the boardroom. We've changed it to visual analytic storytelling, as well as coursework around, we have a class called Analytics in Society, which does tie back to communication skills and ethics. You know, big data is super powerful, and behind every data point is a person and a personal story. And what's the kind of responsibility when you produce an MSBA student? What are the ethics that go with all that knowledge and the programming and coding and you know, breaking down these data problems or data challenges to solve problems is the ethical piece. I think we've seen a lot of organizations have not done the best job with safeguarding their data, consumer-facing organizations, B2B organizations. So really just empowering our students that not only are you being taught some pretty amazing technical critical skills, but then also making sure that ethics piece is front and center. And then of course the communication piece and being able to learn all this powerful knowledge, but share it in ways that others who are critical to what happens to it can also understand it as well.
Yeah, I think it's important to stress that, in fact, most of these programs do teach critical interpersonal skills. For another word for soft skills. And why is that important? It's important because, you know, when you think about getting a specialty master's degree, you might be totally focused on the technique, the technical aspects of the program, and not realize that you're going to get a lot of help in communicating better in doing the presentations in front of groups where you need to be not only personable and concise and clear, but you need to be persuasive. You're going to learn how to work in a dynamic team that has diverse viewpoints and that respects those different viewpoints and understands that out of the team come better decision making, which is a core part of the culture of Team Fuqua, I might add. And these things are essential to setting you up to success in a professional career above and beyond the toolkit you'll get. Now, Kim, does your school take a certain approach to these soft skills?
Absolutely. And I think this is such a great point. And again, I was shaking my head to so much that John was going through and sharing, because it's absolutely critical that you develop the communication skills, the ability to really work with others throughout. And so across each of the programs, there's a lot of collaboration, a lot of team, not necessarily with the same team that you're working with across the 2 semesters. This is an opportunity to mix and to connect with different students, which presents both opportunity and challenge too, especially when you talk about students that are coming from different international backgrounds, different markets around the world. Educational systems, you find, are different. There are certain standards, certain things that we may take for granted, assuming that everybody understands and knows how things work. And so many times we find that students do have to take a step back and sort of come together and figure out that common ground and help to coach and lead others as well, that maybe you're not familiar with how the education system here is in the US. So that's always exciting to see as far as that collaboration. But in terms of curriculum, absolutely, the critical thinking and persuasion for business, the ethical aspect. So there's a lot that's really built into the curriculum in addition to those technical skills, because we recognize and really focus in on developing those soft skills as well.
I like to say, what a good program does is it sands down the rough edges in people. And I mean that in a very positive way. We don't come out of college necessarily polished. We're smarter. We're more wise about the world, maybe more curious about the world, but we're not necessarily as sophisticated and polished for the professional world as you might think. And so I think that a really good program that focuses sometime on these other interpersonal skills does sand down the rough edges for people. I want to get some advice. Okay, we remember back when you were a junior or senior in college, and maybe you were lucky and you knew what you wanted to do. But if you were like probably the vast majority of people, you kind of didn't have a clue and you kind of fell into something. So now we're asking people who are juniors and seniors, take a pick. Do you want a master's in sustainable business? Do you want one in business analytics? Do you want a master's in management studies? Do you want one in accounting or finance or other fields? How do you know? What are the questions that a smart applicant should be asking you folks to narrow down the choices and to understand what's best for him or her? Julia?
Sure. So of course I was one of those that had no idea either. So I think I changed my major like 4 times, and then I finally nailed it down. Yeah, I was one of those. I will admit. But I think it really just takes a lot. If you're really trying to decide what's right for you, you need to find out, what do you actually enjoy? Do you enjoy working with people? Are you better just kind of being behind the scenes and working with numbers? What really is the best for you? And then after you nail down what you kind of decide is very important to you and what you want to be doing, take a look, do research on different programs and look at their career reports. See where these programs are taking students. Are these taking students to places where you're going to be working with a lot of people and that's what you like and that's what you want? Is it going to be taking you to the industry you want? Will it help you get to the different functions that you're interested in? Research is so important. And also talk to students, talk to alumni. I think at the staff level, we are going to talk all day about how wonderful and why you should come to our programs. But let's face it, talking to students and alums are really what's going to help benefit the student to understand, okay, let's see, they did this. Let's talk to them and figure out a little bit more. I think the biggest piece of advice, research, talk to students, talk to alums, but also talk to staff too, to see, you know, on the staff side, what are we looking for? Are you a good fit for our program as well? And I think that's going to be the same across the board. I see a lot of head nods and everything again. But yeah, research is so key, and starting early too. Kudos to the juniors that are listening in.
Exactly, because the earlier you start, the better it's going to be. You're going to be more, just smarter. You're going to give yourself more time to explore, to talk to people, to do the research that's necessary to make an informed choice. Stephanie, you have advice?
Yeah, I think first, I'm going to echo Julia. Start early. You know, the earlier the better. But I think one of the best things, one of the things that I think brings a lot of students my way is they have immersed themselves in internships, and they have either absolutely loved an internship and that has really sort of sealed the deal for them, and they know exactly what they want to do because of that, or it has absolutely shown them what they do not want to do with a career. And I think that a lot of college students feel that in order to do an internship, they need to know exactly what they want to do, but that is as much of a discernment process for them as anything else is. So dive into those internship opportunities. Even if you're not sure, you could totally fall in love with the work that you are doing, or it can also just give you an idea of a deeper education that you still need, that you haven't gotten at the undergraduate level, and these graduate programs can give them exactly what they have been missing in undergrad that they need to get that dream job.
Now, I'm also thinking that, you know, in this environment, there may be an opportunity to do something that you couldn't do before. And that is, while you can't generally travel to a campus, to feel, touch, and smell the place, what you could do is ask to attend an online class, I assume, and to be a fly on the wall in the class, to at least get a feel for the faculty member, the engagement of the students in that class, and how the subject matter is being taught. And that could be a helpful you know, a piece of information to decide where you want to go. Now, John, you mentioned something earlier that I think is really important, and that's differentiation. How do these programs differ from each other? And I wonder what kinds of smart questions can an applicant ask to get at that. Now, let's say you know, for example, that you want to do business analytics. What are the questions you should ask as an applicant?
You know, these are all such good questions, and I think all of us could probably talk about these topics for a while. It's such an exciting time to be in higher ed, especially in graduate higher ed, and then the pandemic's added additional interesting layers to it. But, you know, I think the first thing, as both Julia and Stephanie said, is it's okay to not know what you want to do. I think also it's really critical to be open. And I think that's where graduate degree experiences, especially those that are pre-experienced or are acquiring a significant amount of internships or work experience, can really help you see what's out there. And that's, again, I know that everybody's got very robust career resources, and that's where those career networks, the coaches, employer relations, your alums can be really instrumental in showing people the kinds of opportunities that are out there with these degree experiences. I think what's also happened is as the cost of undergraduate education has gotten so expensive, is that now, whether it's the student, parents, other influencers are footing the bill, the expectation is, what kind of job am I going to get? 10 years ago still, I think just the satisfaction piece was just emerging with the degree, the undergrad degree. Now there's this expectation of, I'm spending a significant amount of money on completing my undergrad education. Where's my ROI, or how soon do I get to my ROI? So I understand those questions, definitely. But I think, you know, oftentimes for us, when I'm sitting with a student, interviewing a student, and I'm looking at the resume, or I'm looking at the transcript, and I see pockets of, you know, solid grades around certain specific coursework, but then I'm seeing less than optimal grades around other coursework, that can start to tell a story. And that's really what you can find out what a student's potential passion area might be. So I would say also, you know, trying to align, I think it was Julia saying, where the interests are. You know, you can't force a fit, right? And if somebody says that they really want to do an MSBA program, but all their quant work is not positive, I would maybe say, let's kind of unpack that a little bit. Let's talk about what that really means. You can still get analytics in other programs, but maybe that might not be the right spot per se.
Go for the MIM.
Yeah, exactly. But again, just being open, you know, and these programs all do such great jobs of showing you the pathways that are available to you. I think, you know, openness is key. And then, you know, doing your homework from a student perspective. And, you know, I always say that we try and leave nothing on the table. And ultimately, then we give the student all the information they need to make the best decision for whatever master's they want to pursue.
Yeah. You know, and I'm just going to go back to that differentiation point that you made earlier, which is, boy, should you ask what percentage of the learning is experiential? Should you ask what percentage of material is covered in the soft skill area? Should you ask whether or not you can do an internship either while you're studying or if there's a lapse in the study time? Can you ask who's teaching in the program, and are they adjuncts or are they full-time professors with tenure? Should you ask if there are clinical professors in the program, because you may actually benefit from a mix of academics and clinical professors? You should definitely ask about employment opportunities, you pointed out, John. You know, who's getting hired, what kind of job titles do they have, and what employers are hiring at the school. That's all important data to help make a decision. Now, Kim, I'm imagining that because you're largely dealing with you know, juniors and seniors who are looking at these programs, are there helicopter parents involved?
Families typically are, and that's actually
Oh, I love how that's a wonderful pivot. You know, families.
families many times are. I would say
Should
not
be.
necessarily in every case, but there's a lot of support there, and I think it goes back to John's point that, you know, especially when families are supporting their children through undergrad, it's a big investment to begin with. They definitely want to be involved in that decision as far as where they go next for graduate school. And that's where those questions really come in, as far as, you know, not just looking at the cost, the investment, but what is that ROI? What companies will my, you know, my son or my daughter have exposure to within this program? What kind of hands-on experience will they be able to gain? So I think those are great questions to ask as far as corporate partnerships. Is there, you know, if not internship, because of many of these programs being so short, you may not have time to necessarily gain a full-time internship. Is there perhaps part-time internship during a semester? Is there a capstone project or a consulting project that can give them more of that experience on their resume as well? So yes, that's a great question as far as the parents, yes, being part of the decision making.
Great. Now, Kim, I have to ask you one more thing.
Sure.
There is an intriguing black and white photograph behind you. And it looks like, I can't really tell what it is, but it looks like it's a very enthusiastic group of people who are crowding around a person. What is that photograph?
It is the Beatles back in 1964. It's the first night they played. Actually, no, it's the night before they played on the, oh my goodness,
Ed Sullivan Show.
Sullivan Show.
It was
So it was right before Beatlemania.
second time they played the Ed Sullivan Show. It was being broadcast from Florida, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think the DeVille Hotel, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
There you go. Now, was John, Paul, Ringo, or George in that photograph?
They're all in that photograph.
Oh, wow. I love that. All right. Well, on that note, it's been a hard day's night for everybody. So we'll just thank everyone. It was a real privilege and an honor to spend this last hour with all of you. Really enjoyed it. And I think what it demonstrates more than anything else is the passion and the enthusiasm that each of you have for what you're delivering to the public. And I really mean that. You know, all of us in this business know how important higher education is. It's key to social mobility. It's a key to leading a more meaningful and fulfilled life, and a more productive one. And I think we all feel good about what we do, because we know that the rewards of higher education to people are immense. It really does transform lives. It changes your trajectory, and it makes you a better citizen. And my God, don't we need that? So thank you, Julia, Kim, Stephanie, and John. Again, a real pleasure, and I really appreciate the time you spent with us. And for everyone else out there, I want you to know that you can go to our Center Court Access page, and you can find your way to breakout rooms and chat rooms with folks here. You can find your way to fireside chats that were pre-recorded earlier with different deans, along with alumni interviews of graduates of these different programs and how their careers progressed, and how valuable this experience was for them. So thank you for joining us again. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants.